Jai Bhim, Jai Mulnivasi. Welcome to MNT News Network. And today we are going to discuss on the topic why the constitutional institutions of the country are becoming dwarf before the government. For this subject, we are inviting Dr. G. Mohan Gopal, sir, former director, National Judicial Academy, Bhopal, and Mulnivasi Ilayababu, sir, Ambedkarite for People's Forum from Chennai. And Mulnivasi Dr. Rajesh Komath, sir, Associate Professor of Social Science, Mahatma Gandhi University, Kottayam, Kerala. So, three eminent panels are there. Out of three, Mulnivasi Ilayababu is unable to contact now due to some network problem, and he will join later. And welcome, sir, Dr. G. Mohan Gopal, sir. Welcome to the studio. Sir, Jai Bhim, Jai Mulnivasi, sir. And welcome to Dr. Rajesh Komath, sir. Jai Bhim, Jai Mulnivasi, sir.
Jai Bhim, sir.
Sir, you can watch this program through YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And we request all the viewers to share the link and share the program to your friends and well-wishers and near and to all your friends. So the MNT News Network is an intellectual news network, and we are inviting most of the intellectuals available throughout the country, and they are giving valuable explanations on various topics. And these discussions are recorded and will be available in YouTube and Facebook. So you can watch it anytime after completing this live program. So now I request Dr. Mohan Gopal, sir, to initiate the live discussion, sir. Sir, welcome, sir. Previously, the constitutional bodies which are available in this country, their influence was so great, and if they publish any information, and that information was very sensational and very useful and controllable to various organizations. So at present, their influence is coming, is becoming a dwarf, and gradually their influence is wantedly reducing for want of political gains. So I would like to discuss with you, sir. The first question I would like to ask you, sir, Dr. Mohan Gopal, sir. Sir, as per the Constitution of India, under different articles, what are the various constitutional institutions or bodies which are constituted to support the democratic system of India? So please explain and elaborate this subject, sir. Professor G. Dr. Mohan Gopal.
Yes, Mr. Tilakumar, that you had circulated a note where you had listed the institutions. So I would suggest rather than my list them, you may list them, and then we can move into the discussion.
Yes, sir. I would like to inform, list out the constitutional bodies now. The first one is Attorney General of India, that was formed as per Article 76, and Controller and Auditor General of India as per Article 148, and Advocate General of State as per Article 165, and State Finance Commission as per Article 243(1), and State Election Commission Article 243K, and District Planning Committee article as per Article 243 ZB, and Metropolitan Planning Committee as per Article 243 ZE, Interstate Council as per Article 263, and Finance Commission as per Article 280, Goods and Service Tax Council as per Article 279A, and UPSC Public Service Commission as per Article 315 to 323, State Public Service Commission as per Article 315 to 323, Election Commission of India as per Article 324, National Commission for Scheduled Castes as per Article 338, and the National Commission for Scheduled Tribes as per Article 338A, National Commission to Backward Classes as per Article 338B, Scheduled Area and Scheduled Tribes Commission as per Article 339, Backward Class Commission as per Article 340, Official Language Commission and Official Language Committee of Parliament as per Article 344, and Special Officer for Linguistic Minorities as per Article 350. So these are the various constitutional bodies in India established under as per the Indian Constitution. So a lot of responsibility and a lot of uh, uh, responsibilities are there in these constitutional bodies, and they are working well. Even though they are working well, why their influence is coming down? Sir, Dr. Professor Mohan Gopal, sir.
Yes. Thank you very much, Tilakumar ji, for
Thank you.
inviting me and for giving me this opportunity. And I'm very happy to be here in the presence of the other panelists also. But I would like to begin by saying that, look, I don't think we can, we can come to a conclusion that all these are constitutional institutions or bodies. Some are constitutional functionaries, constitutional authorities, and some are constitutional institutions. So this is a very long list, but there are a few of them which we may want to focus on. And secondly, I don't think we can say that all of them are necessarily I don't know what exactly is meant by dwarf before the government, but I think as you yourself said a little bit earlier, many of them are functioning according to their responsibilities. But I think perhaps the focus of the concern, since time is limited, are on, and you have not listed here, I've noticed you have not listed here the judiciary, the Supreme Court, the High Courts, and the subordinate courts, which have a separate chapter in the Constitution of India. So those are very important constitutional bodies, which we actually should include in this list. So maybe what we should, I would suggest, is that we should focus on the concerns about the independence of some of these very crucial bodies, where we have material where we to say that there is public concern about it, and the need to think more deeply about these institutions, whether they're actually discharging their responsibilities independently or not independently, and so that is one aspect. The second aspect is that when we look at this question, we have had a time where take the judiciary at the very beginning of our republic. The judiciary took many positions that actually struck down very progressive legislation by elected legislatures, and took a very conservative position, very narrow view of our rights. And there we may have felt that the judiciary was acting independently, definitely independently of the authorities, but the concern was that they were not acting in line with the democratic sentiments of the people and the aspirations of the people. And so sometimes we want these institutions to work independently, but we also want them to reflect the democratic aspirations of the people and the values of the Constitution, and that I would and do so independently, of course. So separate from independence, even if there is no question of independence, there is a second concern that these constitutional authorities may not now be actually working in line with the constitutional vision and aspirations. And one very quick example I can give you is reservations. Over the last, ever since Mandal Commission, there have been at least 7 major major constraints that have been put on our fundamental right to reservations by the judiciary, and 5 by the political executive. Already altogether 12 restrictions have been put on what was simple and plain right in the Constitution of backward classes under Article 16.4, and socially and educationally backward classes under 15.4 to have reservations, and in 16.4 to ensure adequate representation of these backward classes. But the judiciary has put in 50% ceiling. For example, they put 50% ceiling They've excluded creamy layer. They have limited it to appointments and not just promotions. They have put in requirements of data on inadequacy of representation, impact on efficiency of the government. They have put a number of restrictions without which we cannot have access to government. And they've also said, in my personal view, from a legal point of view, wrongly, that the reservation is not a fundamental right, although it is part of the fundamental rights chapter. And no less than Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar had described the right in Article 16.4 as a fundamental right. So we are dealing with two sets of public concerns. One are some institutions, some specific institutions being independent of the government or not, and second are these institutions working independently of the Constitution, rather than going along with the plain aspiration of the Constitution, that the purpose of that we the people have decided to constitute India, resolved solemnly to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to us justice, social, economic, and political liberty, equality, fraternity, and dignity. That is the main purpose of this republic. Article 38 sets out the main purpose of the republic. So here we are concerned that some of these constitutional institutions may be being independent of the Constitution and not paying enough attention to the Constitution. So these are the two. I think by the word dwarf, I would understand that word to mean these two concerns of some institutions. And maybe we can, after this initial response to you, we can start to get deeper into which these institutions are we want to focus on, and what our concerns are about how these institutions are working. Are our concerns justified or not, and what do we do about them?
Thank you, sir. Professor G. Mohan Gopal, sir. Now, I would like to ask Dr. Rajesh Komath, sir. Sir, Dr. Rajesh, sir, are each constitutional bodies are independent? Can government intervene in the functioning or appointment of important posts in these institutions? Sir, Dr. Rajesh, sir, please explain.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to this session. I heard Professor G. Mohan Gopal ji was talking about the larger issues of the constitutional bodies and the independency of each body that functions under the Constitution and also under a government. The question to me that is very interesting and very probing one, because it is nowadays are well questioned, and people of India are very concerned about constitutional institutions under a particular kind of democratic government. This issue was very important even before the independence. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar himself was very much worried about how far the situation of various castes and classes in India, if India become independent. And if India become independent, of course, it will become independent, but it will be controlled, and rather the political executive will be controlled by certain classes and castes that would deny sometimes very integral, very intimate right of the people of marginalized, of margins that are of course Dalits, minorities, and to some extent women. And these issues have been addressed by various political parties, by forming various political parties to give an expression to the voices of the people, that is certain sections of people. You can look at the emergence of regional parties in various parts of our country that is actually meant to put forward the issues of the people even before the government. So government in India is not that simply independent of all kinds of rigid and conservative structures of society. No, you cannot expect that the government, but the government is of course formed by the people, as people's representatives are sent to the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and many other bodies, and they form the government. But that government, that government is not fully independent and very functionary agency under the Constitution of India, as Constitution has envisaged, as we the people of India, as Mohanji has rightly pointed out. The question is very interesting in the sense that lots of the government departments and agencies have formed to address particular issues of the people and particular issues of the particular kind of people. But do we think that that is being satisfied or that is being addressed well by the government? By the government which is constituted in many channels right from the formation of the first government in India. The thing is that what Ambedkar envisaged or said is right, that those who have socially segregated, socially differentiated, should also be politically differentiated. So when this statement come up, people would often thought of that, this is a very kind of separatist statement. But this statement is not separatist, since because it is very, very important in the sense that government is formed by the major elite sections of Indian society. So we understand a concept called deep state. So in a deep state, you see then a certain nature of government, which is always a kind of nature of political structures, social structures that we see in our society. So all this, what we see in our society as caste structures, as gender structures, as structures of untouchability, social distancing, etc., is also reflected in the government. So government is not fully independent from the all that is we have in our society. So a reflection of what is there in society will be reflected in the government too. So in that condition, can you think that a government can fully be independent and fully be autonomous under a constitution? This is a question which is a question to be addressed by understanding the social realities, political realities. So those who are stronger in political in body politic of Indian society is becoming much more stronger, and they rule their own government to protect their own ideologies, and in that process the people who are not really become a voice of the politic becomes marginalized. So in that process, it is a social process. At the same time, it is also a political process. It is a process of an outcome of the government. So government functions or government becomes more or less independent and more confined to the Constitution of India only when people at the margins or people at large are really questioning the deeds of the government and dissenting their voices against the certain policies of the government and try to correct the government. In that process only, the opposition becomes a very important part to make the government independent and be in a constitutional umbrella. But this sometimes will also be questioned in India. The opposition also sometimes become very closely aligned with the conservative structures of Indian society. So what is to be changed is the understanding of the government and its formation itself, the representative democracy, and the real and genuine representative of the people, of various concerned sections of people, to raise their voices to be heard, not only in parliament, but also to be there in the policy, and that should be implemented. So we cannot say that any government, since the formation of India, I mean Indian first government, there is no government which is completely independent and worked under constitutional morality or constitutional norms. Constitutional morality and constitutional norms are there. They are abiding it in principle. But when the functions of the government come up, various pressure groups and interest groups as political agencies campaign for it, and they control sometimes the government's functions. And in that process, it's become very alien to certain large sections of people. This is what we see in our contemporary India too. So I would say that you cannot presuppose that a government should be completely independent in the way that it is envisaged in the constitution, or in the way we envisioned by the constitution makers. So what I will just stop my comment by stating that if a government is not properly formed, and if a government is not actually addressing the constitutional and political morality, the laws are becoming just letters that is written on the paper. So what is important is the government. So Ambedkar has clearly made it categorically that I have made all these kinds of norms and provisions and articles and everything to protect the people of India, and at the same time protect certain sections of India, considering their unprivileged social background. But if that law is being not well recognized by a government, then the meaning of the law is completely, completely void, null and void. So government should be really a representative of the people and by the people and for the people. But we can just utter, we can just say and write about this, and we can eulogize the people-centric idea of the politics. But in practice, there is a deep state that is always there in any government, and especially in India, the deep state is always a conservative kind of state which protects a certain kinds of minority, and majority is always outside the realm of political and constitutional morality. So that is it. I mean, I will add it on next question after some of the questions you put up.
Thank you, Dr. Rajesh. Welcome, Yen. Sir, Ilayababu, sir. Sir, I would like to ask this question, that each constitutional body has been given its own objective. For the last 72 years of independence, are these institutions functioning as per their objective? Ilayababu, sir, please explain.
Yes, you are asking the objectives of the constitution is functioning properly. I can say simply, I can say one thing is the objectives and functions of the all constitutional bodies are proper only. But the person who implements is the problem. The person who implements is the problem. Objectives of the institution of constitutional bodies are everything is safe, and its ultimate objective is to serve the need and serve the nation. But the people who sit in the position and implement is the problem. The law is okay, the law is correct, the constitution is correct, the document is correct, but the person who implement is the problem. If we know the value of the country, if we know the things properly, they can implement it properly. I can say that the person, it depends on the person also. You also told about the elected representative. Even in India, some elected representatives are working for the development of the poor, but majority of not they're doing. It depends upon the personal thing only. So, in my opinion, the constitution is okay, the laws are okay, but the person, the people who holds, they are the responsible. If they are clear, means everything will be good only. But most of them are not so. Last 70 years, we are saying, even if I go for me personally for the SCST atrocity acts, in most parts of the this country, it's not implementing properly. Once they don't know how to put it also. So my opinion is say constitution is okay. Even for more than 100 years also our constitution will be relevant only. But it depends upon the person and the party who holds the power, who is going to implement it. That's my opinion.
Okay, so thank you, Ilayababu, sir. Sir, Dr. G. Mohan Gopal, sir. Sir, I would like to ask this question. What is the objective of Election Commission of India? Is this commission functioning independently, or as per the objectives laid down by the Constitution of India? Can government call governor at midnight time to appoint new government? Sir, please explain.
Sir, with your permission, Mr. Tilak Kumar, I would like to address one or two points in response to the comments made earlier so that we have a continuous discussion. Otherwise, it becomes like an interview where you're asking me a question, I'm answering it. It's not a discussion. So, do I have your permission to address some other broader issues which we need to make clear, in my view, before
Yes, sir. You can address. You can address. You can
continuing, because you're asking very, very specific question about very specific issues, but we have to understand really the broader question of why, what is the problem we are talking about here, right? And I think both the earlier panelists have made very important points in that direction. I think Dr. Kamath has pointed out, Komath has pointed out that there are multiple forces, political forces that work together, and government works only within the context of all those political forces, not independent of them. And so we have to have a deeper understanding of the processes. And Mr. Ilayababu also correctly pointed out that the challenges of individuals failing in their responsibilities to the institution and not doing what they're supposed to do. And if I read from the oath of a constitutional oath of a High Court judge or a Supreme of judges, then it summarizes Mr. Ilayaraja's point, because the oath that they take is that I will duly and faithfully and to the best of my ability, knowledge and judgment perform the duties of my office without fear or favor, affection or ill will, and that I will uphold the Constitution and the laws. So Mr. Ilayaraja's point is that, is this oath being, followed in all cases, and how do we know, and what is the mechanism we have for that? In the light of these comments, I think our specific concerns are, including your question now, about the Election Commission of India, about mainly about judicial institutions, Supreme Court, High Court, subordinate courts, Election Commission of India, and the civil service, which you have not listed as a constitutional institution, but actually it is not listed as an institution, but the civil servants of the country are given special protection directly under the Constitution, that they cannot be removed without a certain process being followed, and cannot be removed by an authority below their appointing authority, and so on. So they're given protections, for example, in Article 311. So I think a lot of the concern in the country is about whether the civil services is working independently, whether the judiciary is working independently, and whether the Election Commission is working independently, and I think to a lesser extent some of the other bodies that you mentioned, for example, the Comptroller and Auditor General, the Union Public Service Commission, two very, very important bodies, the commissions for OBC, SC, ST. So these are the main areas where there is concern about whether these institutions are functioning independently, and we have the advantage of understanding that these institutions work within a broader political context, and we are also talking about individual failures. And I would say the challenge, that practical challenge that we are facing is question whether what is going on is that individuals are acting under orders which they are not supposed to act under. They're acting under orders from extra constitutional authorities or extra constitutional sources like political parties or political movements or social organizations. Are they acting under orders or not? And if so, that would be completely legal, if it's done legally or illegally. And there is a concern about that. And there is a second concern where even if somebody is not instructed either by an official authority, an official without adequate authority, or some extra constitutional source, they're not instructed. Are the decisions being made in accordance with this oath, upholding the constitution and the laws, or are they being made motivated by other political, ideological, personal interests? We are not entering into the area of corruption, but independence. Corruption is also a way of undermining independence, but we are looking at it more ideologically and politically. And so I think the main so with these questions, what I'd like to say is that we have a very unusual context in our country. We've had it once before, but this time very strongly and very aggressively. We have a very unusual context in this country. And that unusual context is that we have a ruling party which draws its ideological inspiration from a social and cultural organization, and certain ideologues whose views are totally opposed to the Constitution. And they're publicly committed to that ideology. And what are those ideologies? When we say secularism, they want a theological state. When we say democracy, they want a monarchy. So if you take the writings of some of these ideologues, they're saying democracy is not good, we need a monarchy. That secularism is a bad idea, we need a theocracy. That they're against socialism, they're against a republic. And so if you look at the preamble to the Constitution, they're against almost all the fundamental ideas in the preamble, very openly and very explicitly. And they're against equality, they're against freedom, they're against individualism and individual dignity. They believe that the individual should be sacrificed for the country and the community, and individualism is for them not a good idea. They want patriotism, they want total sacrifice of the individual for the common good. And they are also committed very openly to create a Hindu Rashtra, which has been a long-standing, open, transparent agenda. And so if we go back, this is not a new concern. We had on the 27th of August 1947, one Mr. Muniswamy and Mr. Nagappa, Muniswamy Pillai and Mr. Nagappa, both scheduled caste members of the Constituent Assembly, had openly expressed a concern. And Mr. Muniswamy Pillai had actually said on 12 days after independence that the scheduled castes have fear that the Hindus have come to power and the Hindu Raj will be established and the Chaturvarnya will be, we will be taken back to Chaturvarnya. And to harass the Harijans. So we have a context where a political dispensation is actually controlling government, which is openly and transparently, committed to goals which will require overthrowing the Constitution, because you cannot establish a Hindu Rashtra under this Constitution. And they have not renounced that goal. In fact, many of the leaders still keep talking about it. And some of them say that it's already happening, it's already happened. So we are now the question is, how do we view the behavior of the constitutional authorities, particularly the authorities we talked about in this context, when the country is actually deliberately, the government of the country is led by people who want to take the country on an ideological path which is diametrically opposed to the explicit ideology of the Constitution. In this context. I think the question that we should be asking is, should these constitutional institutions and officials actually stand up and fight against this to protect the republic? Or leave it only to citizens to protect the constitution of the republic? So what is their responsibility? This is what both Mr. Ilayaraja and Mr. Dr. Komath are asking. What is their responsibility? We know this. We know that this is all very transparent and explicit, that they want to establish a theocratic monarchy or theocratic autocracy in this country. They believe that is the best. They believe that that is in the best interest of this country, that we should have Chaturvarnya, that they don't believe in equality, because they believe in individuals having three gunas, Rajasic, Tamasic, and Sattvic. And if you don't have Sattvic guna, that God has not infused you with Sattvic guna, you can't rule this country. So you can't choose people like that through elections. So the question is, we are not talking simply of whether individuals are failing the constitution anymore, or acting independently and are doing their responsibility or not. We are asking a much bigger question. These constitutional authorities' job is to defend the republic. What are they doing to defend the republic and openly fight to save the republic? We are actually, by coincidence, Mr. Tilak Kumar, in the 8th decade of our constitution. 8th decade of our constitution. Many people may not have noticed or may have noticed that the American Civil War took place in the 8th decade of the American Constitution. So we are exactly in that period when the United States, after also a very feudal country, very big republic, a lot of landowners and all that, brought in a constitution with a democratic structure, and there was a backlash against it by the old elite, and they actually went into a civil war. Of course, we hope we will not have a civil war. We should avoid a civil war, but that's where constitutional bodies have to assert themselves and have to fight the ideologies that are anti-constitutional, which are the stated ideologies of those who are controlling the political executive today. What is the responsibility of the constitutional officials and constitutional bodies in this context? I would like to frame that as the issue. Let me stop here for now.
Thank you, Professor G. Mohan Gopal, sir. Sir, at present, India is in safe because Mulnivasi Bahujans consist of 85% of the population of this country. These people are having weapons because they are working in Indian Army, they are working in Indian Navy, and they are working in Indian Air Force. So Shodras have possessed weapons and safeguarding the country. Because of that reason only, the country is in safe. When they were not holding weapons, Mughals defeated India and Britishers defeated India. So we can proudly say that we are protecting this country, and whatever the caution you have given now is very, very important, and that needs to be enlightened and informed to the most of the educated intellectual class in this country. Sir, now I would like to request Ilayababu, sir. Sir, for this question is for you. There are various commissions for the welfare of marginalized sections like SC, ST Commission, OBC, BC Commission, Minority Commission, etc. Current days, there are no news of reports of these commissions. Are these commissions independent? Our observation is most of the members from various ruling political parties are becoming members of these commissions. Are these commissions are also managed by government in power? What can be the remedial measures to work these institutions independently? Ilayababu, sir.
Sir, it's a very good question. I think this question is relevant to me, because you're talking about the commissions. Especially, I want to tell about the Scheduled Caste Commission. The commission, National Scheduled Caste Commission, and also I'm talking about the state election commissions are meaningless. They are not functioning properly at all. They don't know what they do. They don't know what to do. They're simply obeying the party head and they're doing what they want to do. If you see for the national Tamil Nadu's election SCST Commission, National SCST Commission, even the chairman, Chairman L. Murugan, I took a project in government MC Raja hostel. It's a government SCST hostel. I worked there for 4 months. Our work is to develop the infrastructure there. That hostel is under the control of the commission. It comes under the welfare commission. I think the hostel has been there for more than 70 years. For the last 15 years, the hostel has not been maintained properly. Even basic facilities also lack in this hostel. In that hostel, we worked there for 4 months through night and day. We changed everything through CSR fund, which is provided by TVS. At last, we finished the work. The commission chairman, vice chairman came there and say they do that. They took the name. Before that, I think I don't know her, the person name came to Tamil Nadu and met the Kalanjar, Chief Minister Kalanjar. There, that was the Chief Minister was Kalanjar. He asked about the special component plan fund. He told the Tamil Nadu government spent that money for the infrastructure fields of Chennai, especially building bridges in Chennai. He said, I used this money for that, but the commission here to that and didn't do anything. They left. National Scheduled Caste Commission is meaningless until it is free from political party pressure. In my opinion, I want those persons that are seated in National Scheduled Caste Commission should be partyless. They should be like some intellectuals, professors, like persons should be appointed there. If party politics enter that, nothing will happen. It is meaningless. Even PCR acts also, even I have been witnessed so many PCR act cases have not been properly registered, and the scheduled caste will come and just they will hear and they will go. They don't know even what the thing is happening. Since the election finished in Tamil Nadu, 24 incidents have been taken place. None of the incidents have been properly recorded by the National Scheduled Caste Commissions. I'm sorry for saying that because I don't know about other commissions, especially about National Scheduled Caste Commission. I can talk about more. Better it is, in my opinion, better it is to be dissolved. We don't want any commission because they are not functioning. The person who holds the chair is loyal to the party only and loyal to the person who appointed him. Not it doesn't know anything. Yeah, I'm asking that person name exactly. He's telling my loyal is to my party and the person who nominated me. I will do and according to the will and then I can't act of my own. He told that in the press meet itself, in the local guest house. I have so many things. Today, the National Commission, Scheduled Caste Commission is relevant. It's a constitutional body, but it is functioning like a political party body only. So, for how many cases have been solved by National Scheduled Caste Commissions? Even and also other commissions. Commissions are commissionless only. They have just are functioning for the satisfy the people, to satisfy only, not to solve the problem.
Okay, thank you, Ilayababu sir. We have to raise our voice against the wrong functioning of these commissions. This is one of the solution. Otherwise, they will function as they like, and they are loyal to their parties, and they are diluting the influence of these commissions. You have rightly said. Now, I would like to ask Dr. Rajesh Komath sir. Sir, in current days, it is observed that whosoever is raising a voice for liberation, justice, marginalized section are targeted and put behind the bar in the name of national interest. As per Constitution, every citizen has right to speak and ask for justice. Is it justifiable? Can government do this? Under which provisions they had got these rights? And Dr. Rajesh.
It's a very probing question. I mean, as both of the panelists, Professor Mohan Gopal ji and Ilayababu ji, they made very critical points. See, first point is to defend the republic. That is the point raised by Mohan Gopal ji. That is very important. The political parties' interest are to protect their ideology, and to protect the people that is being supported to that party. So political parties are not meant just to organize and mobilize a certain kind of people under a particular banner. No, political parties have a very important constitutional morality to pay attention to the Constitution of India. But what happens is that the political parties formed their ideological base and tried to mobilize people that will be in a particular order that protect the interest of that particular ideology. So coming back to this issue of, the voices, the dissent voices of the marginalized people, and they have been asked, or they have been put into jail, they have been tortured just because they have raised their issues in a public view or in a platform. That is not to question the government, or that is not to question the nation. But what these governments, the majoritarian government, I would like to call the government is a majoritarian government. The majority government always had a problem, always had extended lots of problems to the society. This majority government think that they have a particular tenure, and it is being mandated by the people so that their ideologies can be implemented at any cost. But majority government is not should not think like a majoritarian term. A majority government is only under democracy. So a majority government or a minority government under a constitutional body, under the constitutional body and under the premises of democracy, should always be heard the voices of the people who are minority. But this is a spirit of democracy. The democracy is defined in such a way in our constitution is that it should be based on equality and fraternity and liberty. Just because of majority, you cannot think and act as something which is an autocratic in nature under democracy. So this is a problem. The problem is that the constitutional morality, the democratic sensibilities of political parties are very important. For now, what happens in India, as Mohanji has rightly pointed out, is that India as a nation is trying to define against the idea of India. The idea of India was put forward in the constitution. That is based on the secular fabric of Indian Republic. That is based on the liberty and fraternity and inclusive in nature. Every sections and ethnic and minority bodies, languages, everything has been included, and it is an inclusive democracy and at the same time a participatory democracy. This idea of India and the idea of Indian Republic is being slowly questioned and erased by the Hinduized groups that is very much rooted in Indian society right from the beginning, right from the formation of Indian government or before the formation of government. Even in the national struggles, you could see the conservative Hinduized notions that was very integral in the process of political discourse in India. What I'm saying is that India as a nation is nowadays been trying to define on the basis of religion, on the basis of culture, on the basis of language. And India is being tried to define as a Punya Bhumi, not even as a motherland. It is a Punya Bhumi kind of a concept that has been highly rooted, I mean politically used and rooted in our body politic. That is, I would say that it is completely hegemonic Brahmanical values. So that is the base of a party, and that party come into the power. Would you think that the minorities, the untouchable castes, Dalits, Adivasis, women, and other marginal sections of society would get justice to such a kind of a party which is driven by an ideology which is completely against the minority or democracy, the minority democracy or participatory democracy? This is the integral question. But at the same time, I will not devalue the existence of political parties. Without political parties, we cannot form a government as per Indian constitutional provision. You should come and you should stand before the people, and people will select, people will elect the representatives, that they will send it to the parliament, and they will form the government. And these political parties, when they become the government, they should not work as a political party. That is a problem. When they form the government, they should encapsulate, they should internalize the idea of India that is envisaged in the constitution. So this idea of India is democratic in nature, participatory in nature, and inclusive in nature, inclusive of all caste, class, and ethnic ideologies. Look at the questions of citizenship. We, the people of India, is the central word that has been there in the beginning of our constitution. But we, the people, those people who are residing in India, is the people. Or those people who have been living in this land is the people. But now the idea of the people is also being challenged on very flimsy grounds, on very unpartisanal political ground. Then that issue become very disturbing to our political society. So what I would say is that when the voices of the marginalized people, when the voices of the suppressed and oppressed comes up, government have every mechanism to subdue it. Government have every facility to mark those resistance are anti-nationals. Nowadays, law itself become law itself becomes a powerful tool in the hands of the people who are ruling this country. Dr. Ambedkar have rightly pointed out, I will quote him, law and order are the medicine of the body politic, and when the body politic gets sick, medicine must be administered. I would repeat, law and order are the medicine of the body politic, and when the body politic gets sick, medicine must be administered. So this is a kind of situation. So law is to be for the better of the people, for the protection of the democratic values of the people, and not for the controlling and administrating and putting people into the bars. No, that is not the purpose of the law. So what we see is that, as rightly pointed out by the earlier panelists, is that all those voices from the margins, all those human rights voices, struggles for human rights, are being treated as anti-national movements. Look at what happens in Indian universities. Universities is a classic example to portray this ideology. See, look at the problem after the Rohit Vimula's institutional murder. Rohit Vimula and the students were raising very important questions. That they were denied fellowships. They were denied every right of being a student in the campus. And they have organized themselves to voice their problem before the administration. But it is being treated very badly, very undemocratically, and they are put into different issues. That become an issue of the issue is being marked as something which is against the nation. So recently, Supreme Court, we have a very hope in our Supreme Courts of India and other constitutional bodies, especially
Yes, sir.
court. Supreme Court has said that, see, these kinds of things, protest against governments, are not against the nation. It is only a particular kind of political ideologies that people are resisting it. So this is to be noted. But when a majority government, based on a very conservative ideology and negating all other kinds of cultural ethnicity and cultural existence of vast majority of people, then every voices would be treated as something, anti-national. Every protest would be treated as against the nation. This is a kind of narrative, political narrative that nowadays coming up. This is political narrative
Yeah.
deliberately coming up because, to subdue, to contain the resistance. So you cannot
Thank you.
expect these kinds of thing in a highly kind of autocratic kind of democratic system. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rajesh ji. Intellectual ignorance is one of the major problem in our country. So enlightenment is required, sir. So now, sir, time is running fast, and there is another 10 minutes. That day. I would like to ask Dr. G. Mohan Gopal, sir. Sir, what are the mechanisms under the constitutional provisions to make work these institutions independently without any intervention of government? If government is disobeying, what are the alternatives to control it under constitutional framework? Sir, please elaborate in brief, sir.
Again, I will request your permission to maintain some continuity with the discussion so that there is some logic to it. So the points that have been made earlier, I'm not repeating, but from my side, the point I made is that we are facing a very peculiar situation. Our constitutional institutions are facing a very peculiar challenge that the political leadership of the country is in the hands of people who are against the constitution, who to achieve their openly stated political and ideological goals have to overthrow the constitution, either directly or indirectly. So in this context, I think we have to understand that the challenge and the challenge we are facing is, yes, there are some constitutional institutions and constitutional officials who are responding to this with independence. And we've seen, Mr. Komath has referred to some very outstanding judgments of some courts where they're standing up for constitutional values and defending them. And I think we salute them. There are some others who may be acting, going along with the anti-constitutional ideology for due to fear or due to opportunism or due to some other personal factors. But the real concern is seems to be a large number of constitutional officials who are manning constitutional institutions who actually agree and are ideologically working along with the ideology that is trying to overthrow the constitution. They believe in it. They're acting as a matter of conviction rather than as a matter of pressure or persuasion or deviation. They are part of that mission to overthrow this republic and establish a Hindu Rashtra in our country. And such people are also being chosen selectively and appointed. People with this ideological background are being appointed to constitutional institutions. So we have a situation where we have to ask, how can these constitutional institutions work anymore when there are people inside and outside those institutions whose purpose is to defeat the constitutional institutions? And it is not a question of ensuring their independence, because they may actually work, as Mr. Komath said in the beginning, they may work quite independently, but their mission is to overthrow the constitution, not the institution, but the people who are wedded to the ideologies of those who are now openly ruling. Of course, the same ideology is shared by people in earlier parties and earlier governments. It is not new. But here, I think we have people who are officially committed to the establishment of a Hindu Rashtra, which is totally opposed to the constitution in our country. So we have dealing with this grave challenge of not just independence of these institutions, but these institutions being, in a sense, hijacked to carry forward an agenda to destroy the constitution. So, question I raised first was, who will defend the republic, and then what will we do in a situation where some of our constitutional institutions may actually be in the process of being hijacked by those who believe that India should become a Hindu Rashtra. And what can we do in these situations? I think we must also understand the social context. What is going on is actually an attempt to retain Savarna supremacy, which is RSS, retain Savarna supremacy, and prevent the kind of democratization of the Hindu social order, and deny the Hindu Avarna communities, the backward classes, to use a constitutional term, from having their democratic rights protected, and to prevent social change. Whereas the purpose of the constitution is, as stated in Article 38 and 39 and 46, is really to bring about a new social order based on the values of justice and liberty and equality, fraternity and dignity. So when they're facing a very grave challenge of rescuing and protecting not only the republic, but rescuing and protecting our constitutional institutions from those who are trying to hijack it from inside and outside. And how do we? And they will not allow us to hold them accountable. So what can we do? We can try to be as truthful as possible, as clear as possible, and to protect and defend our constitution, our republic, and these constitutional institutions by ensuring that those who want to use it, hijack it for other purposes, are not able to do so. And they start, one of the most important constitutional institutions, which is not mentioned in the constitution and you have not put in your list, is actually the educational institution, the public educational institution, schools and colleges and universities. That is at the root of the constitutional idea of a free, democratic, equal, socially just society. Those institutions are being hijacked and subverted, and people are fighting back. But it's a very difficult fight that we are in, and I think we must understand the social nature of the struggle. That at the end of the struggle is also a struggle over chaturvarnya and caste, and the domination of the continued the attempt of dominant caste to continue to maintain power, although they're a small minority, and to deny democratic transformation of the society. So we have to understand the constitutional struggle. We have to understand of changing the nature of the republic. We also have to understand the context of the struggle for social justice and the struggle for annihilating caste, to put it in Ambedkarite terms, and to establish a new Hindu social order, as Dr. Ambedkar has said in his Annihilation of Caste, where the Hindu social order is based upon the principles of democracy and equality and liberty and dignity, and we can all live in peace with each other and in fraternity with each other. So it's a very complex issue, and I think I'm glad you focused on this topic, but I think it requires a lot of reflection. We have drawn attention to it, and let us all take this forward.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. A lot of work is required to enlighten the people. Now, sir, already the time is over. So I would like to ask Dr. Rajesh Komath, sir, please conclude in a overall manner within 1 minute, sir. So you please conclude the total discussions and in a summarical manner. Please give your comments, sir.
Yeah, the topic that we discussed today was very interesting one and very probing. But all of the panelists have actually pointed out the the undemocratic nature of various constitutional bodies, which is controlled by the hegemonic structure of society, and they implement or they see these kinds of commissions and constitutional bodies as a kind of mechanism to expand their ideology, and that's to be questioned. That should be, put before the people. As Ilayababu has rightly pointed out, the case of Tamil Nadu SC/ST commissions, the working of the commission, it's all very interesting that it is almost nothing is being done on the basis of the SC/ST commission to probe the cases of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes people. They are not being acted in a very democratic way. It is being controlled by the political party and the government for their sake. Similar is the case in our national context, and the spirit of the Indian Republic is being well portrayed by Mohan Gumarji sir, and he have pointed out very categorically how far the right-wing forces who rule India is anti-democratic and anti-people, and of course anti-constitutional, anti-constitution. So these are the summary of our today's discussion, and this is a very valid discussion. And I have myself pointed out certain issues of how far it is been contained by government. The resistance has been contained by the government by putting them into jail and putting them as anti-nationals, etc. But these are the larger issues that we could see nationwide. Every points of everyday life of the people is being challenged and questioned, and the issues of marginalized and Dalit Bahujans are very crucial and critical. And these are the points. And to voice against this is very important. That is the message of the today's discussion. I thank Tilak Kumar and MNT groups that are conducting this kind of discussion, and is also inviting me to be part of this wonderful panel. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Rajesh ji. And Munwasi Ilayababu sir, I know you would like to say so many things, but because of time constraint, please conclude within 1 minute, sir.
First of all, I think this is a very good conversation between us because we talked about the hot topics, the constitution, what happens today, whether it is relevant or something. So many things have been learned from this, especially the Mohan Gopal said that we should guard the republicans. That's a good, and even that Rajesh Komath sir also said a good quote. The law and the order is the medicine of the politics body. Is 100% true what Baba Sahib Ambedkar had said. And I want to say, in finally, I want to say something about the Constitution of India. I think all you people have heard about that. These are the words of Ambedkar, not the words of me. He told that my friends told me that I am the maker of the Constitution. Again, my friends told me that I am the architect of this Constitution, and preferred quite finally I said, and I will be the first person to burn it out. In what context he told, I don't know. But the thing is happening, the Constitution is okay, but the people, the person who is there, they are not good. If the thing is happened good, everything will be right, I think. I thank for this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Ilayababu sir. And finally, Dr. Professor G. Mohan Gopal sir. Sir, you have enlightened our viewers in a systematic manner, and you have elaborately explained. And sir, finally, we want to take your final concluding message. Sir, please conclude within 1 minute, sir.
Certainly. Thank you very much, Mr. Tilak Kumar. I think the main message is that we are in the midst of a very grave constitutional crisis. We are in the midst of a very grave constitutional crisis where there is a very serious attempt to overthrow the constitutional republic and retain Savarna supremacy and prevent the Bahujan, Dalit Bahujan masses from from democratizing the polity of this country. And this involves the diversion of constitutional institutions away from their constitutional goals, undermining of constitutional goals, and also hijacking of these constitutional institutions. So we have to, as citizens of this country, we have to defend the constitution, we have to defend the republic, and we must defend faith in the constitution, as Mr. Ilayababu has also emphasized. We must defend faith in the fundamental concept and institutions of the constitution, that these are sound institutions and we have to protect them from those who attack it. So we have to defend these institutions and ensure that the constitutional vision is achieved. And so we have a very big responsibility. I think we need to, each of us, do whatever we can to fulfill this responsibility in this grave hour of crisis for the country.
Thank you for your valuable information, sir, and thank you, Ilayababu sir, and thank you, Dr. Rajesh Komath sir. Sir, we are having a very big network in this country. BAMSA, Mulnivasi Karmachari Kalyan Mahasangh, Mulnivasi Sangh, and other People's Party of India, other offshoot organizations are actively working in this country. And ours is a cadre-based organizations, and our cadre are continuously working and enlightening the public throughout the country. I would like to thank all the listeners and viewers for viewing and listening to this program. And this program is recorded and will be available in YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And whenever you want to see this program, and you can watch, and you can just go through YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. It will be available at any time. And please, I would like to ask all the viewers that please share this program. Please inform to your friends and intellectuals and students and all other people belongs to OBC, SC, ST, and religious converted Mulnivasis. So this is a training program, and we are doing this program through MNT News Network. And every day we are conducting these live discussions. And tomorrow we would like to work on another program at the same time. So thank you for watching this program. Thank you all. If anyone wants to subscribe this MNT News Network, please go through this website www.mntnewsnetwork.com, and you can donate your donations as you like to strengthen the movement in this country. And thank you all the panelists, and thank you each and everyone. Jai Bhim, Jai Mulnivasi.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you.